Welcome, everyone. We're live, pal. I have my co-host, the fabulous Denise Salcedo, and the fantastic Andrew Zarian with me today. And we're anticipating a pretty fun guest here, GCW head honcho Brett Lauderdale. He's probably coming on here pretty soon. But before we get to that, how is everyone doing? Denise, you look very happy. You look smiley. Normal Denise countenance here. Are you excited to talk about some wrestling?
Well, I definitely am. I'm so glad that you said that I look happy and excited because I was just telling you guys off air that I have like a massive headache and it comes and goes. It's like pounds and then it stops pounding. And I'm like, just smile. You'll get through it all. So I'm hoping eventually it just fades away. But excited to be here. Excited to chat a lot of wrestling, kind of. There's so much going on.
Tons. And Andrew, I know this is like you've been doing work all day today with interviewing and stuff, and we'll be able to talk a little bit about a project you did earlier today that should be out later tonight. But how are things otherwise?
Hanging in, man. Busy. It's been busy the last 2 weeks. I thought things would slow down in the new year, but holy moly, I was wrong. Things have gotten even crazier and busier in the world of wrestling, in my personal life. So I'm glad I'm here.
So I think Brett
I feel like
is
you have
actually
extra hours in the day. I feel like Andrew has extra hours in the day than we all do.
1 extra hour. I get 1 extra hour here.
So I think Brett is in the process of getting ready to log in here. So we should have him on here in a second. But AEW today announced Jon Moxley is going to be on Dynamite on Wednesday. So I think as expected, when we saw that Jon was going to be on the show that we're going to talk to Brett about here very shortly, that I think we all assumed he was going to be on Dynamite, and they announced that today. So that is really cool, and I can't wait to see what they do. I'm kind of hoping for a Moxley and Bryan Danielson. Denise, would you be fine with Moxley and Bryan Danielson?
Would I be fine with it? I feel like I think that would be that. If being fine is an understatement of it all, I feel like I would be more than fine. I think if you got two badasses literally going at it, you don't get more badass than Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. So I'd be very excited for that.
What about you, Andrew? You looking forward to some
definitely.
Moxley back?
No, I'm excited. This was a thing. We had Omega was out. Obviously, he's still out, and Moxley was out. And now all the pieces are fitting in now with Moxley returning and Omega hopefully returning soon, in a couple months or whenever he comes back. I think this is AEW running on all cylinders right now, and I think that's going to be a positive for everybody, including the viewers.
All right, super producer here. Do we have Brett on?
I think we do.
Hey, Brett.
Hi. Hey, Denise.
Good to see you.
Let me give him the proper introduction here.
Yes, please.
He is the guy who runs the show at Game Changer Wrestling, whose big show this weekend, The World on GCW, is on Sunday at the Hammerstein Ballroom, both on streaming and traditional pay-per-view, which is very exciting. Brett Lauderdale, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and I am also very excited, and thank you for having me on.
All right, we have to thank Denise for this connection here. Denise, great job as the booker of this show. Okay, Brett, so I'm going to ask the first question, then we're going to kind of go around the room. So our first question is I saw Matt Cardona call this show Game Changer Mania, sort of like your version of WrestleMania. Is that how you see the show this weekend? Is this like the big giant show for you guys?
Well, of course. I mean, this is definitely the biggest show in GCW's history. I don't know if I would call it Game Changer Mania. I think he still has WWE brain. So, it's hard for him to get away from that sometimes. But certainly this could be like our equivalent, at least up to this moment. And, this is everything. Everything's on the line. And I can't think of anything bigger for not just Game Changer Wrestling, but also independent wrestling. I mean, I can't think of there ever being a bigger show in independent wrestling.
Andrew, did you want to go next?
Yeah, this is being a New Yorker. I live in New York City. I walk by the Manhattan Center daily. This is a big venue, obviously. This is a big deal venue for anybody that's a pro wrestling fan or even in New York City. Major events have happened here. What was what was the process into getting this venue, and were you looking at anything else in New York City?
Well, I mean, this is Hammerstein Ballroom is, one of those places that, it's like a dream for a lot of people. It's a dream both, for wrestlers, fans, promoters. It's just one of those special places that, everybody loves to go and everybody likes to think about. But for most, for 99% of people, um, it's nothing more than a dream. And for GCW and for myself personally, it was really nothing more than a dream up until very recently. It was always something that, I hoped maybe one day we could do that. And, I guess, I decided several months back, hey, let me reach out and see, just so I could at least set a goal. What would it take, And, I made a meeting and, I did a walkthrough there and I met the people there. And, it was just like, once you get in there, being in there is different than, watching a show there on video or, looking at pictures. When I walked in there, it was one of those things where like, I wasn't going to be able to walk out without like putting this in motion, for better or for worse. And, I mean, it's the real deal. It's one of the most prestigious venues, in the world really. And, I don't know. It was just once I got there, it was just a wrap. There was, I was willing to take any chance and put it all on the line to make it a reality.
So what was your reaction and talent reaction the second you basically told them like, hey, this is officially a go and we're going to be doing a show here?
Yeah, no, everybody was super excited, of course. Again, this is a dream for a lot of performers. A lot of people grew up watching shows from this venue. Um, and it's something in a lot of ways it did come out of nowhere. So, to go from, it not being on the radar to suddenly being on the radar and being a thing that was happening. Everybody was, of course, super excited, pleasantly surprised, and looking forward to it.
And that's the thing too, that this is what we wanted to talk about as well, because the second that it was announced and you guys put out that cool video and, it's a really nice visual kind of seeing everybody sort of, talking about how they got there, etc., and what it kind of meant to each and every single person. So now you've already announced, several matches. I believe you have 8 that have officially been announced. So I kind of wanted to get to see if you can go over some of the matches, some of the ones that, we're going to be seeing, and also the ones that you're most excited for the fans to check out, or just to kind of see like which ones have had kind of like we're feeling really pumped about a few of these.
Sure. Well, I mean, we just saw it made official yesterday, Effie and Jeff Jarrett, Effie versus Jeffy, if you will. Um, that's one of those matches that's like an only in GCW type match. It's the kind of thing that in a lot of ways our company was built on, matches that never seem possible. Jarrett and Effie are like the ultimate contrast, where they come from, what they represent. And, for me personally, listen, I'm as big a fan as anybody. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen. It's just such a contrast in the characters. They're both larger than life personalities. They're both such strong personalities. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So that's a big one for me. Obviously, having Moxley, the GCW champion, back is a huge deal. Having him wrestle Homicide, who is, by the way, king of New York. Ask any wrestler from New York, from any generation, and they'll tell you Homicide is the undisputed king of New York wrestling. So to get to see him challenge Moxley at the Hammerstein Ballroom for the GCW title, I'm not sure there's a bigger deal than that, so to say I'm looking forward to that would also be an understatement. I mean, listen, every match is big. The grab the brass ring ladder match that was yesterday, that's another huge one. Deppen, Jordan Oliver, everybody that's in that match, these are people who have grinded and worked hard. PCO, Leo Rush, even, who's back in GCW again. These are people who are always hungry for this major opportunity. And to be put in a match like this, a ladder match, Hammerstein Ballroom, and the winner getting to choose any match at any time, in reality, I'm not sure there is a bigger opportunity than that. The Lucha match, the Lucha 6-man tag. I'm a huge Lucha guy. This is like the very best of the best, and as far as Lucha goes. And GCW Spring Break has always kind of been highlighted by a big Lucha tag match or Lucha Scramble, and this kind of follows in that footsteps. And again, I'm not sure there could be a match with more star power talent than this one. I mean, you want me to keep going? All of these matches, you can't just.
So,
How about
I think
you guys?
I've told this. Well, so I wanted to actually ask you about the crowd because I told the story before on this show, which is for All Out Weekend. I was out there, and most people know who watch this and listen to this that I have done podcasts in the past with Jon Moxley, mostly around UFC, but I've also interviewed him on this website, F4W Wrestling Observer. But he had reached out to me and said, if you don't go to this show, you are in an expletive. I'm not going to repeat that word, but he was saying this is the show to be at. In addition to All Out, he wasn't saying All Out wasn't the show to be at, but he was saying you need to see this. Basically, you need to see this, the audience, the environment. And I was so amazed and almost like taken aback at how the crowd responded to everybody, the ambiance in that building. Everything was at such a crazy, insane level of just rush and excitement. And like, why do you think your shows are able to create that experience for fans? What is it about the product? What is it about the fan base? What is it about the wrestlers on this card that basically takes these shows live to a next level?
Well, I think there's a lot of elements that come into place, and a lot of elements that took time to come together. There's definitely a feeling of unpredictability at GCW shows. Anything can happen, honestly, and it's cliche to say it, but really anything can happen at any time at GCW. In addition, I think that there's, we've built up a level of credibility with fans at the point where they know that, they're going to get their money's worth no matter what the show is, where it is, who's announced or who hasn't been announced. And that creates a level of excitement as well, where, again, and combining with that element of unpredictability, it kind of keeps everybody on their toes and excited. And they know, they know they're going to get everybody's best on any day. Everything that happens in GCW, in my opinion, at least, it's very organic. We don't try to, we let the fans call the shots, at least as much as we can. So I think that the fans feel like, they are part of the team, if that makes sense, where they can kind of dictate, the matchups and the talent that they see. We don't have contracts, so, we can do anything we want at any time. We can change cards, and in addition, if you follow GCW closely, you know that a lot of the times, there could be 3-4 matches, half of a card that's not announced until the week of the show. So I just think that kind of keeps everybody on their toes and just keeps that level of excitement, and anything can happen at any time.
So, I mean, you brought up, the fact that you don't have contracts and it's booked per show. How have you been getting, I guess, a flow of recently released talent that wants to come and wrestle for you? Because this is the hot ticket right now. I mean, the GCW from a year ago, which was doing fantastic stuff, to some people, maybe they weren't aware exactly what it was. Maybe they had held the company as to being a hardcore company. But the evolution of this company over the last 12 months has been unbelievable. Are you getting a lot of these guys and women that want to work with you now that are recently available?
Yes. Every day I hear from somebody who's multiple people that want to come aboard. And a lot of these people are big names, people who are fresh off TV, people who were on TV for years, people who were under contract for years. And so many of these people are super talented, good people as well. And I feel bad because I wish I could work with everybody. but I can't. There's so many of them, and there are times where I can't even reply to all of them, or give them the attention they deserve. But um, yeah, a lot of people want to be a part of it, and um, it keeps. I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of people that want to be involved, and it's always interesting to see, who's next.
How do you determine who you would want to bring in? Is there something that you have in your mind that says these people have to fit, I guess, the culture of GCW and what the belief system is?
I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a fit for sure. I mean, it's not just we just bring anybody in and it's gonna work. Um, again, like the people that I bring in, whether they're people that are people that are off TV or just people who are starting from the ground up. I look for people that are passionate, that still love to go. I don't want to bring people in just solely for name value. If they're not willing to embrace the GCW style and work hard, then I'm less motivated to work with them. And that's not like a diss on them, but it's like we're like full speed ahead in GCW. So, that's why, like, you see guys like Ricky Morton or Too Cold Scorpio. These are legends that have been around for decades and decades, that have been wrestling for longer than some of us have been alive. But you know what? These guys still go hard, and that's what makes them a good fit as opposed to other guys, um, you know, Ricky Morton and Scorpio, they want more. More matches, bigger, better opponents. They want to go, and that's not a joke. And that's something, like, for instance, that would set them apart. And it's something that I look for in anybody who would be new to the company. If you want to come in and you want to go and embrace what we do, then you may be a good fit.
And I think it's been really cool to kind of see a mixture of the talent that you've been bringing into the shows. We talk about, seeing people like Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and then on top of that, you just announced you've been bringing in a bunch of luchadors. So that's been super cool. I'm excited to see, when you brought in Psycho Clown, etc., and all of these different names. So I kind of think that it's been kind of awesome to kind of see a different mix of different wrestlers and whatnot. For you, I do want to ask though, because we kind of have to talk about, like, where do you go from here? You have this, the World on GCW coming up at the Hammerstein Ballroom, such a big event. Like Andrew mentioned, the evolution of GCW has absolutely exploded. Where do you go from here? 2022, what are your goals for GCW?
Well, 2022, the goals for GCW is to continue to um, grow our fan base, go to new markets, meet new fans, make new fans. um I don't have our game plan is not dramatically different from what it's been up to this point. We want to remain authentic and organic, and do things our way. you know and I don't know, maybe that sounds like a boring answer, but that's what we've always done. And we'll continue kind of push the envelope at times, and I don't know, I mean, that's pretty much it.
It's working. Clearly it's working.
Hey, Brett, thanks for giving us some of your time, and for talking about this upcoming show. And give the folks, the sort of the last pitch, like, where can they find it? I know there's not a ticket to be found live, but where can they find it? On pay-per-view, on streaming? How do they watch this show this weekend if they want to and they don't know how?
Yeah, well, you can, of course, watch the World on GCW on TV live. It will also be available on your traditional cable pay-per-view. So call your local cable provider. uh, Make sure also that you tune in. The World on GCW PBR kickoff show starts at 7 p.m. That's the first out from 7 to 8 p.m. That will be live and free on both YouTube and Fight TV. So you'll be able to watch the first hour for free. There will be a couple matches as part of that. You'll be able to kind of get a little sample of the atmosphere and what the building's going to look like. And then, hopefully from there you'll order and join us live the rest of the way on both Fight and pay-per-view. But it's pretty simple. Just hit the button on your remote or download the Fight app and join us.
Thanks a lot, Brett. That was awesome. Great to have you, and great luck and success for this show. Can't wait.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for watching or listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise.
All right, I
See ya.
think
I gotta tell
think
you
in
though. I gotta tell you, I got goosebumps when he described going in that building. Have either one of you been in the building at the
Never.
Hammerstein?
Never.
Okay, it is. I look. I get it every time, right? I talk about it. It's an institution here in New York. It's a very special venue. It's held like there's the Garden, obviously, but the Hammerstein is something very, very special to anybody that's attended any event there. From rock concerts to I think I saw Jane's Addiction there.
Wow.
2001, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So even non-wrestling events, it's a fantastic venue. But for me, like that is my like if they tear that thing down ever, I'm leaving New York. I'm done. Like I don't want to be in the city without that venue in here. It's stunning to look at. It's a really cool venue. Just so happy for these guys.
Okay, but wait, you have a story here about why you are not going to be at this show.
No, I'm not. My wife and I are
story?
going. I'm not going to the show, unfortunately.
He's being a great husband.
Once a month.
He's being a great
I'm
husband.
being a great husband. Once a month, my wife
Yes.
and I stay in Manhattan. We do like a weekend in the city, and
Oh,
it's the
nice.
weekend that we picked. It's because of scheduling. You know, Grandma's going to watch the kids, so I couldn't pick another week. Which either way, it's going to work out great. Maybe I'll watch on pay-per-view. When I get back home on Saturday night. But very excited for this. I'm being a
I'll
great
be here on the website reviewing the show right after. So FYI, the stream's already scheduled. You can go and
There you
set your
go.
reminder.
So it is also I don't know what it is on the traditional pay-per-view, but I saw on Fight it's still only $25. So like, there's a lot of wrestling fans who will say, "Well, I can't buy this show because I get everything for $10 on the WWE Network on Peacock." But this is a very affordable pay-per-view show if you are into this product. So I thought that was kind of cool for the fans. But Denise, I think we're going to have to get you some votes for 2022 Observer Awards for Booker of the Year. Yet again, comes through
yeah.
for the guests.
Hell yeah. How did I become the booker, man? Like I just think like, hey, this person would be cool to have on the show.
There we go.
Hollywood
There we go.
There you
Salcedo
go.
has all the connections.
Now we're gonna get people like flooding my inbox saying like, get me on We're Live, pal, okay?
And then you might be like Brett and just be like, "Oh man, there's so many of them. I can't get back to everybody. Like, I kind of got to
Yeah.
fit what we
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
unfortunately." So no, that was great. Okay, so let's kind of bring it back to what we normally do here. We were talking about Moxley and he's coming back to Dynamite on Wednesday, and the idea that who would we want to see him against? Now, when he left, it looked like we were headed towards a bit of a heel turn with him. I don't know if it was going to be an actual heel turn or if he was just going to amp up the aggression. And when you're John Moxley, I don't even know how you amp up the aggression because he's already such an aggressive wrestler. But now coming back, I don't imagine he's going to get cheered ridiculously by this fan base. So I imagine he comes back as a giant baby face. But we were talking about who would you guys want to see him wrestle. We talked Bryan Danielson. Andrew, I think we had to kind of cut your answer short before we got to Brett. Who would you like to see Moxley come back against?
So I would imagine or hope it's Danielson because that was supposed to be the match, right? We were supposed to see that. The match changed, obviously. Actually, I'm sorry. We were supposed to see. Yeah, that was the match. That was.
I think. Well, at least we think that that's where the tournament was going. The tournament
that's where it was going
for the next shot. We thought that's where it was going. It seemed like it was.
Well,
leading
I could tell you some of the plans changed last week for TV. I like Danielson wasn't on last week.
Yes.
So I think possibly there's a couple of elements behind that, but I would imagine that if they found out that Mox is going to be there, might as well change his program a little and maybe do something else. I don't know if that's the case. Why they moved him? I was told a couple of reasons, but I don't go into the speculative stuff that I can't confirm. But I think for Mox, he's going to be in a top position anywhere. You know what I mean? Like going in back, coming back in the company, and there's so many people he could face. But why not start it off with a bang with Danielson? I mean,
That would be awesome.
those
Like
two are
kind of
gonna
like
tear
a
the house apart.
wrestling fan's dream match, right? Like that's what AEW has been able to put together. These and that would be another one. Let's stay with Andrew here for a second, and then I want to get Denise's thoughts on this next thing as well, which is yesterday the internet was abuzz with Cody Rhodes free agent frenzy news. Is Cody going to show up as the 30th man in the Royal Rumble? And so that took a life of its own. I thought it was very interesting to read the reporting on it, but at the end of the day, like I was kind of thinking, wow, it would be crazy if Cody thought this is the time to leave, right? Like this is AEW is still growing and growing and growing, and
Yeah.
I don't imagine that he's leaving. But is there anything else that you know about this story? And just kind of what did you think about it? Because it was one of those days on the internet again where just everybody seemed to be talking about this.
So I put a tweet out early in the morning. I said I really wanted to be a slow Monday or something along those lines, right?
Yeah,
An easy
yeah,
Monday
yeah.
or something, because I'm working on another story also. And I was trying to go. I was going back and forth on it, and the person's getting a little cold feet about certain words that I was going to use. So I'm still working on that, and maybe we could get to it later. But I knew this would blow up into a huge thing because everybody likes to speculate. Everybody likes to guess there's problems. Gossip sells, negativity sells. So when I saw that, he hasn't signed his contract yet, I knew people were going to lose their minds and talk about the forbidden door, and maybe that's why the information came out. I'm not saying that's why Sean did it. Obviously, Sean did a fantastic job on that story, but some of this speculation helps a little bit. It creates a buzz, but
Yeah.
the reality of Cody ever, maybe never say never, but to go back to WWE and show up in the Royal Rumble, that sounded bonkers to me. Like some of the speculation was that he was going to show up as Stardust, in the Rumble.
The character that he hated.
The character that he hated. I would eat my loafers. Let me just say that. If he showed up as Stardust I would boil the loafers and chew it live on the air. There really wasn't more. I think Dave also mentioned that he got sick and he didn't get a chance to sign it. And when he was there at TV, he had to leave. So I think a lot of it could have been just timing. And sometimes, listen, when you feel comfortable with someone and someone's going to stay, you're not going to be as pushy for them to sign. I've dealt with that in numerous things where I felt confident that I'm going to get paid for something and I don't go after the person to pay me. It's a certain level of comfort. I know those guys are all very close. And he's very embedded in Turner right now with his show doing well. Yeah. And he's one of the main guys at AEW. He's an EVP and he's part of the original crew. So I can't see him leaving. Never say never, but I never imagined he was going anywhere.
Yeah, and it was pretty clear to me that this wasn't the story of, whoops, Adam Cole and Pete Dunne's contracts are coming up or they have already expired and we didn't realize. It wasn't that. It was pretty clear that it wasn't that. So, Denise, you saw this story dominate wrestling Twitter yesterday. What were your thoughts on it?
I don't think I cared as much as maybe some other people did. I just didn't really see it as a big deal in the sense of like, I just saw it as something to, hey, maybe like a publicity, I don't want to say publicity stunt, but something publicity wise in order to promote, Roads to the Top and add a little bit of, sizzle and drama and all of the razzle dazzle for the reality TV world. So that's the way I saw it. Now, I know that you mentioned that it doesn't come across like something where a contract was forgotten about, or, like you mentioned in like a Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly situation, that sort of thing. I personally feel that it's not really that good of a look when your EVP is not like, I don't know, like I know that Andrew says that sometimes when you have that level of comfort, you just, don't get to signing things right away. I think very differently, and maybe this is just like who I am, but like and I said this on the Raw post show as well when we talked about this, is that for me, like if I'm an EVP somewhere, you bet your butt that I'm going to make sure that those papers are signed well in advance and that, things are being done. Like, I don't want 1 second of me being a free agent or me being, no, I don't want that. Like, if I'm here and I'm here to stay, and let's say this is not a publicity thing for Roads to the Top, I'm going to make sure that my paperwork is done and completed and that, all is good on that end. But so for me, it kind of makes the EVP title look a little bit, it makes them look it makes it look less important to me when you have this out there. So that was kind of my initial thoughts and my initial reactions to that.
Okay, but let's stay on this. You kind of made an interesting point, which is there is some drama. There is some drama to it, right? Like, that's what caught the internet on fire yesterday was just about everyone just started, fantasy booking Cody doing X, Y, and Z. But, they could turn this into angle. They could turn this into storyline for Roads to the Top. And I would not be against that in any way, right? Like it could create interesting TV. So you could turn something like that into a positive. All right. So Andrew, you referenced this. Now, I don't want to get you in trouble. I don't want you to get texts as we're recording, but we can talk about this because it came out in the Toronto Star, and the headline from Merch Jaffer: Can Tony Khan's AEW beat Vince McMahon and WWE at its own game? Now, do you have the self-mutilation tweet anywhere that seemed to be the focus of this piece from wrestling fans?
The one that people told me they expected better from me because I posted a picture of Brock Lesnar pummeling Randy Orton.
Did you get in trouble again, Andrew?
That one?
I thought the self-mutilation tweet was, or self-mutilation quote was very rich. So
Brandon Thurston, troublemaker Brandon, he posted the clip, like the quote from the Toronto Star, and it was, if you look at the gory self-mutilation that bloodied several women on December 21st event on TNT, it quickly became clear that these are two very different businesses. They went into, there was obviously more that went into the quote. You guys could read the article, but a couple friends of mine that work for Warner Media on their sales team, somebody that I know very well, he reached out to me. And he was pretty annoyed by that statement. I'm going to be careful because some of the stuff he said, I don't want to kind of go into detail, and I don't want to blow up anybody's spot. But essentially, our conversation was regarding the negative articles that have been coming out on Fridays and Saturdays about AEW. And the one that really bothered him, and this kind of goes into, remember when I got in trouble a couple of weeks ago? For
which time
that tweet that I was doing.
You get in trouble a lot.
When all of the internet and AEW fans turned on me because I couldn't articulate what I was saying. So I had heard from him regarding the Sportico article about the NHL having a terrible lead-in with AEW, and he was really angry about that. He made a couple points, and he's like, listen, it's not the playoffs. It's a 10 o'clock time slot. It's not going to garner the viewership that you would in prime time. And he had a bunch of reasons. But, there is some truth behind the a little bit of difficulty with ad sales for AEW. They're not doing terrible. I think Dave mentioned it on Wrestling Observer Radio with Brian also a couple of days ago, where he kind of alluded that, it's not a super easy ad to sell. Average, ad sales is very different. Ad sales runs networks. I think a lot of people don't know that, especially in radio and television. If your sales team does not like your product, it's nearly the kiss of death. You're gone. No matter how great your content is. If you can't sell an ad, you can't sell an ad.
They
you're
won't
finished.
Try as hard to sell it either. If they,
and they won't try as hard. I can tell you, these guys are very fond of AEW's programming. One of the guys that I know was a key guy that was adamant that TNT needs to have this content on. This is years ago. Shockingly, I met him at a wedding, out of all places. I met this guy. So, so when he's expressing it, he was very fixated on the Sportico article, which was a hit for the NHL and selling ads for both products for Turner. And this one, the self-mutilation one, and it was interesting that he that quote specifically discussed the women's match. If you really look at the ratings over the last 2 weeks for AEW on TBS, their female viewership, their 12 to whatever demo you want to go, 12 to 48, has been much stronger than it's been previously, because Big Bang Theory, which is their lead-in that does about 1.4 million viewers on average. It goes up and down, anywhere from 1.2 to 1.6. You know, let's average it out 1.4. They have a very large female audience, and if you're in ad sales, that is the holy grail of selling ads. It's a very specific demo. You know, you could get the most bang for your buck when you're selling that ad, and I'm willing to bet they would love to place female-centric ads during the female matches, the women's matches, especially if it's a big time match like the main event on Rampage. They took this, or the person I spoke to took this as a direct hit to advertisers, not for the fans. This had nothing to do with us. This had nothing to do with, the Twitter debate, whether or not blood, self-mutilation or gigging is self-mutilation or any of that. This was a message to advertisers to say, hey, guys, we're not in this business of cutting ourselves and, female violence. What we do is perform, and I'm filling in the blanks here, right? And I'm softening it a little bit. What we do is a television show, it's performance art, it's safe. We cater towards a family-friendly product. Bring your ads over here. Don't look at this stuff, this self-mutilation stuff. And, a lot of these guys are really pissed off at the comments. And I think it kind of, lit a fire under their asses a little bit, which is a positive. Mm-hmm. But this was this dude was hot. I mean, he was annoyed at this, because I'm sure it's going through the internal slacks. You know what I mean? I could tell you that essentially even people at NBC in their sales team was talking about the self-mutilation on AEW as like a win, I don't know about the Fox guys. I haven't spoken to anybody there, but people saw this. It's a very divisive statement to make. And it's a little bit, is it self-mutilation? To someone that doesn't know wrestling, how do you explain, especially in advertising, right? Like if you're Procter & Gamble and you're thinking about a possible ad on an AEW program, and now you get wind of this article, or you see it yourself, and you, how do you, maybe somebody's bleeding. Okay, fine, that happens. And then someone tells you like, no. They cut themselves. These women are cutting themselves. Think about how bad that sounds, right? When you kind of explain it to a layman.
Yes.
And that was the purpose. That was the point. And they got their point across. I mean, this was, I'm not going to say a hit piece, but maybe it was. I don't agree with it. If you need to do blood in your show, and that's what you're choosing, and your talent is comfortable with it, I see that there's definitely a place for it, whether you're WWE or AEW. What I don't see is doing the opposite and saying, well, I'm not going to mutilate, self-mutilation is terrible. We're not going to cut ourselves, but I am going to take, multiple forearm shots to my head and leave the guy in a pool of blood so people could talk and we drew blood. I know that was 6 years ago, but the company, the hard way. But the philosophy has not changed for WWE over the last 6 or 7 years. They've been very negative on blood, and it has everything to do with they're a publicly traded company with a lot of advertisers that they got to answer to. They got merch deals. They got Mattel they got to answer. I mean, yeah, it's their company, but at the end of the day, your advertising is what dictates what you're doing.
Sure.
And this was them trying to level the playing field of, maybe when AEW is renegotiating that contract in 2024 or whenever that contract is up, right? I think 2024. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Maybe this is something that's going to be on the table with the Warner Media guys. Like, listen, we love having you, but we got to pull back on this. This was a little sprinkle to get people thinking.
So I mean, to your point, I think what their deal currently is, 40 million or whatever it is. It's not the giant WWE deal.
Yeah, 48 million.
So let's say that they're able to double or triple the deal for the next time. And in order for that deal to be worthy of that type of money, they will have to sell ads for higher dollar value, right? And maybe at that point, maybe they do pull back on what could be causing, some people to stay away. But that is kind of in the future. What I wanted to ask, because I want to run down sort of the history of this going back and forth in wrestling. But before that, I wanted to ask both of you, and we'll start with Denise. Do you think AEW has a blood problem? Because I know a lot of people who, not to say that they're offended at the sight of blood, but they think that they go to it a little too often, and they worry about the idea of a brand new fan coming in who may be watching the show that precedes it, and they go, oh, here's this wrestling thing. And let's say you have a 10-year-old kid, and then you see possibly blood. Like, do you think that AEW has a blood problem, Denise?
Garrett, I feel like you're asking the wrong person because I've always been this person that is really into blood and wrestling. Like, I've never been anti like the violence and the blood and all of that. I've always been very pro it. And I think you'd be surprised how many I think you would guess like, oh, maybe women are going to be more like, ooh, that's gross. You'd be surprised. I think a lot of women are like, oh, like this is pretty cool. Obviously it depends on the situation and whatnot, but I just don't necessarily see it as a problem as so many other people do. And like, no offense, but like 10-year-olds these days, man, they know so much stuff and they are fully aware. And for us to think that there's only negative or bad content going on in wrestling, no way. Have you like Netflix is one of the most popular streaming like platforms that there is. You can say it's the most popular, definitely, right? And I watch their programming. I see what is on those shows. And so, like, you got preteens and all of these kids or whatever watching these shows as well. So to me, it's like, I feel that I feel like I'm sounding like I'm defending violence, but I just feel like, and again, that sounds really bad, but I just feel like I don't think kids are as sheltered these days as maybe we might think. I mean, obviously this is a case by case basis, but just based on the children that I'm surrounded with and the children that I know, and we got lots of children in this family, they are all pretty much like, for the most part, like aware of these like sorts of stuff. But I do think that it was, Andrew mentions his friend and ad sales and, all of this. And for me, like, I totally get that side. Like if I'm working this department and I see somebody essentially try to undermine me or undermine, the work that we're doing because of the product that's out there, I would be angry too. But at the same time, I also see why the other side, did it or said it. It's a war. And so for me, like, I didn't like when I read this comment, when I first, like, I didn't really see the big deal in it. And like, I get it now, like more so like when Andrew explained about, how the people closer to the situation may have felt, you get it more in that sense. But like from like the first, like the moment that I read it, I was just kind of like, the only thing that was unfortunate was that they targeted the women, where it's like, all right, the women aren't the only ones that are doing it. Like, why is it bad all of a sudden? Because the women are more so doing it. So that was the one thing where I'm like, oof, like it's across the board, right? But it's just, I don't know. I'm getting to the point of, I'm just like, they both throw shots at each other. You cannot cheer when AEW throws shots and boos when WWE throws shots. I mean, you can, but it's a fair game, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's a fair game. And this happens all the time. This happens constantly, especially in the world. Like, I live for majority of the last 20 years of my life has been engulfed in, I mean, obviously I do a bunch of stuff, but ad sales, marketing, in New York City has been a big part of my life. And I know these guys and I know how they think. And this is a tactic that's used regularly. I mean, Vince used this 27 years ago, same exact tactic. By the way, Denise, I'm not shocked you're not afraid of the blood stuff. Garrett, you had to see her in Vegas. She was a mad woman. She goes, come over here. Let me show you something. She just gigged right in front of everybody, cut her forehead, bleeding everywhere, chasing me down in Vegas, down the streets. You had to see her. She was crazy.
Where are you going with this, Andrew? Why are you spreading ugly rumors about me?
It's not a rumor. Believe me. It's 100% true. She was like bleeding like Abdullah everywhere.
You'll never know. You never know. I hide all the blade cuts
makeup, with
makeup. Yeah, it's the cover girl.
But as long as she carries the gig in her bottom lip, then
in her mouth, always in her mouth, never on her finger. Yeah. But I think this is a, to the fans, it doesn't matter. But Denise, I'm going to tell you, like, I love AEW. I think the content is great. It's It's brought. I mean, I think this whole thing, WWE. Listen, WWE does great stuff too. Let's not ignore the Roman Reigns run and what they're doing with Lashley and Lesnar. But for me, I enjoy AEW more when I'm watching the content because it's catered towards me a little bit more. But I wouldn't take my kids to an AEW show. I got a 5-year-old and 6-year-old. Obviously they're younger.
That's where I was getting. Exactly where I was getting.
I would take them to WWE in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, I would take them to WWE because I know what to expect. My 5-year-old, my 6-year-old, even when they're 7 and 6, do I feel comfortable taking them to, an AEW pay-per-view where they're going to, curse and they're going to bleed? I don't, they're too young for it for right now for me. And that's my if you're taking your kids there, good on you. Your parenting is different than mine and I'm no one to judge you, but I personally don't feel comfortable, with my kids watching that. With that said, I feel very comfortable watching it.
Yep. No, it's a great point. My partner for the Fight Game podcast that we do on this network as well, very early on, the thing that he was most offended at was the language, because he's got little ones running around the house, 5 and 6 and 3. And so what would happen is he would turn it on because knowing that we have to cover it, so he'd start watching, and then the foul language would come on and he'd have to stop it because the kids are in the room. And then he'd have to wait and watch it much later. And I think it's a great point. But at the same time, it is a TV 14 show. So, it's good parenting to probably not allow your kids to watch. But the reason why I asked Denise, not because I know Denise, the wrestling fan, Denise, the person who we talk to every week, I know her thoughts on it. But not everyone was going to PWG shows when they were like 12 years old, like Denise was. But
and cutting themselves in Vegas, yeah.
I was raised differently. I don't know what to say, man. I was raised differently. My siblings were raised differently. Like, a little kid curses. It's funny as hell. Like, man, do it again. Here, let me show you how to do the I should not be.
By the way, I do that with my kids. My daughter never curses. She will not say a word. But my son, he waits for the moment for my wife to leave the room so he could be like, "Hey, Dad, that's bullshit." He loves it, and he's like, I'll never do it in front of Mom.
See, now I'm mad at you, Andrew. Now this is an issue here. I'm mad at you. If you allow your son to curse, you need to allow your daughter to. This is what I mean. Like, equality.
She doesn't.
They can
she chooses
curse.
not to.
Yeah. She chooses not to? Oh, she's a darling
chooses
then.
Not to.
Well, see, that was like my whole thing, because I know that, daughters always get treated a lot more gentler, I guess you can say.
No, my daughter's a beast.
Hell yeah.
Just to kind of put a pin on this one, so I remember, now Denise is barely alive at this point, but you can go back to the 1991-92 timeframe. WWF is now under all of this media pressure because of steroids. So they pull back. They try to, it's about wholesomeness. It's about steroid testing. Like, we got to stay off of the negative radars. WCW comes in 95, and they're actually gaining some success in pro wrestling, doing what? Having jacked up guys, and also, maybe
everywhere.
Doing a little bit of blood, right? And so Vince McMahon goes on the offensive, and it's like, Ted Turner, who has absolutely nothing to do with this, how dare you actually have this stuff on your TV, which was the WWF playbook in some of their greatest years. So that happens. What does WWF use to create the company that we know today, to create the public company, the billion-dollar company, Vince McMahon, the billionaire? They go to the Attitude Era, right? What is the Attitude Era based on? At least in the beginning, it's based on raciness. It's based on Sable in very provocative costumes. It is based on insanity when it came to matches, guys getting hit in the face with chairs, guys getting destroyed. And look, there was blood as well, right? There was a first blood match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kane. That was the main event of one of their big shows in '98. So what does WCW do at that time? Eric Bischoff goes, well, we're going the other way because we want these big advertisers that Andrew was talking about. We want to be able to sell our show to anybody, no matter what. And so they take the other route. It doesn't work out for them, not because of the fact that, that they went that way. It was because of other things. But now WWE 20 some odd years later is in the position to target those big time advertisers. And so they know what their end game is. They have this established TV deal. They want to be great partners because they don't, they're looking for an even bigger deal next time. AEW is much smaller. They have to prove different things than WWE. They have to prove that they can get young viewers. And this is one of the ways to do it, which is counter to how WWE does it, right? We've always talked about for years, we need a competitor. What's going to be a competitor? Well, someone who does something a little bit different than WWE, not someone who does the exact same thing as WWE. So they can go to this edge as long as they don't go over the edge and all of a sudden become distasteful, because they are targeting a demographic of younger people so that the next time these TV deals come around, they can get more money. And at that time, if they have to play ball with these bigger advertisers, so that's the game, right? So this is established. This is the history of how this thing has worked over the last 30 years or so. And so I get the game WWE is playing. I'm sure AEW understands this game as well. And we'll see things like this happen from time to time. But that I just wanted to kind of, this has happened throughout the history of this competition. Okay,
Garrett,
so
that letter is hysterical from
Yes.
Vince to Ted.
Turner, yeah.
It was on
Ridiculous.
2/8/96. Yeah, I'm just gonna give a little piece because it's so freaking funny. It's so freaking funny, right? Dear Ted, since there's been no response to my repeated requests that you and your pro wrestling company, that's how we spelt it, stop practicing self-mutilation, I could only assume based upon the last 2 weeks of Nitro that the practice of self-mutilation, slicing one's self with a razor blade, is not only condoned but encouraged. As you know, Hulk Hogan has been bleeding all over the place for the last 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, where the word comes from. I mean, it's from their playbook, right?
Yeah. I think this is the most bonkers email, text message, whatever, letter. There's been numerous references on your wrestling programming of the weekend's double cage match that will be so violent that an opponent will be bleeding to the point of no recognition. I mean, this is wild.
Yeah. But that's always the game. And they're in a competition. They're in a wrestling war. Tony Khan knows what he's up against. So, I'm sure he knows how to deal with this situation. Okay, so we're coming up to the end here on this show, and I don't want to go too much over, but last week we didn't get to do our performers of the week because we didn't have a show. Last 2 weeks, who are your performers of the last 2 weeks? I'll go first because I think this still fits in the last 2 weeks. We haven't been able to talk about it that much, but the New Japan Tokyo Dome shows, Kazuchika Okada, who is also in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame as of the last issue, he was mine. He had 2 4.5+ star matches on back-to-back nights for Wrestle Kingdom, both nights. I know Denise was watching it and covering it, but he's my performer of the last 2 weeks. Denise, what about you?
Oh my God. So I feel like the whole last 2 weeks are a blur now. So I'm going to give my performer for this week because I feel like I'm just all over the place with everything you know what? Okay. So I would say my performer, I just have too many for the last 2 weeks because I just thought that there were so many people on Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill that did phenomenal. You got to give so much love to Deonna Purrazzo and Mickie James for their awesome match. So I do want to shine some light on them on that end of things. And maybe, oh my gosh. And then for this past week only, I would probably have to give it to Serena Deeb. And the reason why I'm going with Serena Deeb is because we kind of saw her snap and go crazy. And I kind of feel like she stood out in that way to me. So for this last week, I would say Serena Deeb.
All right, Andrew.
I'm going to go Wardlow.
Wow.
I think he's been on a great run. he that match was something else with CM Punk, whether you liked it or not. But he's on
Got people talking.
upward trajectory. Got a lot of people talking. I think he's going to be a major player in AEW moving forward in the next couple of years. So I give it up to Wardlow.
All right, let's track what folks are doing this week for the rest of this week. I know I saw Andrew had tweeted out that he and Rich did a cool interview. I'll let him talk about that. For me, it is the Fight Game Podcast this Wednesday. I will tease this because I don't like saying anything until we actually do it. But I think Dave and I will have a special interview Thursday night on Wrestling Observer Radio with somebody who is related to this Hall of Fame thing that we were talking about, that was Dave's whole week. So not going to say who it is, just in case it doesn't happen, but there are things in motion for an interview for our Wrestling Observer Radio episode on Thursday night. So probably posted late Thursday, early Friday if it happens. Denise, your jam-packed schedule. What are the highlights of your jam-packed schedule this week?
All right, so first and foremost, I will be here 4 times this week on the channel. I'm going to be doing a bonus stream. So tonight I will be back to talk about NXT 2.0. Wednesdays I'll be here. Tomorrow I'll be here to talk about AEW Dynamite. We'll be obviously talking about Jon Moxley's return, etc. Friday I'll be here to talk about SmackDown and Rampage. And then on the 23rd, which is Sunday, I will be here to talk about the World on GCW. So if you guys want a GCW review, I will be here doing one as well. I may or may not have a guest for that. I'm still not sure, working on things. On top of that, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. I have new interviews up with Leo Rush and Deanna Purrazzo if you guys want to check those out. I also did an unboxing video for the All Elite Crate, which you can check out.
Awesome. Did you get any? Well, I don't want to spoil it. People can check out the video, but I like the idea of opening up something that you don't know is coming, because you have to be excited, right? You're like, oh, this T-shirt of someone who I've never seen before. Yes, great. But I'm sure you got some cool
Just
stuff.
check it out. No, check it out. And you have to be honest too, because if it's not that cute, it ain't that cute. You got to tell it you got to say it how it is. So that's the video.
All right, Andrew, what is up with your busy schedule this week for content?
I just finished an interview with Charlie Haas. Fantastic interview. Really nice guy. Looking forward to seeing what he does in 2022. That's going to drop tonight. Thursday, Mat Men. We're going to be doing Mat Men on Thursday. Obviously, I'm not going to be here for the GCW show, but Sunday I'll be back with Wrestling Observer Live. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Sports Byline. We're having some issues with Sports Byline. It's nothing bad. It's just technical issues connecting. So we're going to probably do it live on YouTube and on Twitch. And I may do an extended edition of Wrestling Observer Live.
All right. Yes. Football season is still going, so I've not been able to be back on that show with you. As
I know, when it's over, you're going to come on.
My 49ers jersey here. 49ers are still in the playoffs. But once football season is over, I can be there for Andrew in a pinch if somebody drops off, and because I love doing that stuff with you. So, and I love doing this show with both of you. So, all right, I guess that is it. We got through it, almost an hour on the dot. How about that? Thanks to Booker Denise for getting our guest, Brett Lauderdale. Check out the GCW show this weekend. For Andrew, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.